Guess it's time for us
Newspapers.
to get into the newspapers.
Yeah.
Abby, I guess you have to start because you have
so I have the daily graphic. Okay, so right to the daily graphic. And the big headline here, dam spillage. World Bank votes $40 million for farmers. World Bank votes $40 million for farmers. And you can read more about that story on page 3 of the daily graphic. There's a picture there of Dr. Brian Achampong. He's the Minister of Food and Agriculture. Sounds like a great plan to me.
Very great plan.
Extreme poverty increases again, says the World Bank. That's on page 13 of the daily graphic. And look, yesterday I was on a Zoom. I mean, I should have been there physically, but there's a lot happening. So I just popped in. I belong to a group called the Ghana Youth Voices, and we're sort of like the youth voice for the World Bank in Ghana. And we based on the work we do, it's a diverse group of people. Some people are in tech, some people are in the arts, some people are in gender activism, civil society, different groups, but very young people. Nobody there is, above, say, 36 or 37, right? And I hopped on the call, and all these statistics are being thrown at us, and it's the youth who are taking the brunt of this. So when we say extreme poverty increases in Ghana and the world, we're talking about people who are typically below the age of 30, and it's very scary because young people have a lot of energy, and if they don't know where to direct it, because we're coupling this with unemployment as well, they will become vices to the society. True. So something that we really need to look out for. And apathy towards official corruption worrying, says the GBA. That's the Ghana Bar Association. That's on page 13. Interesting to hear them speaking in that way. All right, so that's the daily graphic for this morning.
All right, so on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, President launches Youth in Agriculture for Sustainable Employment project. Government to sanction businesses over violation of human rights. And the big one here, arrest, prosecute powers behind Galamsey. GBA appeals to government. And lastly, 4 private labs closed down in Accra for failing to meet required standards.
Wow. That's scary.
That's very scary. So what have they been doing?
So I mean, I'm curious to know what those standards are.
Well,
should we take a look?
Just a bit.
Yeah.
So it's on page 13.
Okay, of the Ghanaian Times.
Yeah, of the Ghanaian Times. Page 13. Okay. So a total of 4 private laboratories in Accra have been closed down by the Allied Health Professions Council for engaging the services of unlicensed personnel and using equipment that are not fit for purpose. They are Acumed Diagnostic Service, Sam Sandy Health Center, Charlton Medical Center, and OcuHealth Health Center. According to Mr. Kweku Asensor Brobe, Deputy Director of Public Relations, AHPC, the laboratories failed to meet the required operational standards in the practice of allied health service delivery. Briefing the Ghanaian Times in Accra yesterday, he said the closure of the laboratory follows as inspection and enforcement exercise conducted by the council at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. He explained that the laboratories were closed down after checks revealed they were not working in line with the provisions of the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act.
Wow.
And people have been going. That's my problem. People have been going.
So that could mean a lot of things. People could have been wrongly diagnosed. People could have contracted
something else.
Yeah. That's really scary. So, look, ladies and gentlemen, before a lot of different, and it's not just in the medical field, a lot of different entities pop up all the time in the society. Please do your bit and also check before you engage the services of some of these places. That's scary.
That's scary. And like you rightly said, a lot of people must have been misdiagnosed. I'm not saying it's what it is, but there's a possibility, that could happen, because a lot of times when you talk to people that have been ill and stuff like that, they go like, oh, I was in the hospital for so long, they were treating me for this while I had this.
Wow.
You understand? So those kind of situations, you're rather killing the person than helping the person.
Wow. Anyway, I hope it's not just about shutting down the facilities, but also doing more investigations to see how many members of the public may have been affected. And then the sanctions,
Yeah.
Chris, the sanctions.
The sanctions is very
The
important.
sanctions. All right, we have here Daybreak newspaper. On the front page here, government's counting on you, Akufo-Addo to the youth. And that's on pages 3 and 4 of the Daybreak newspaper. Baumia shows love to flood victims. And you see Baumia there with a contingency, and he's speaking to some members of the communities that have been affected. COP Yohonu donates to spillage victims. Lovely to hear that.
Yeah.
And then Duncan Williams, Eastwood Anaba claims false, says the National Cathedral Executive Director. So now this issue is getting hot. 2 days ago, we heard that Archbishop Duncan Williams and Reverend Eastwood Anaba have resigned from the board, basically, of the National Cathedral. The people who are supposed to be overseeing the affairs there. And now all these things are coming out. So again, stories unfolding as time goes on.
Right, so on the front page of the Chronicle, the big one here, small boy Ejabeng insists judge must go. And obviously we have the picture of the Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Tokonu and the picture of Kisi Ejabeng, the special prosecutor. And COP Yohonu donates to flood victims. Stop defending suspected corrupt officials, and that's by the GBA. MOBA 1983 those out 1.4 million Ghana cedis to support Infancy Pim Sports Complex. And Vice President consoles flood victims. So the Bible verse today is coming from Proverbs 18:17. In a lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines. Wow, we have this in the Bible.
We do.
I should read more.
I like it. I like it. And let me do the daily guide before we move to the online platforms. Dame slams NDC lies on Galamsey, and that's on page 3 of the daily guide. Interesting times. Go into farming, Nana urges youth. That's on page 3 of the daily guide. And then 31 ECOWAS, into quotes, prostitutes arrested in Nzima. That's on page 6. It looks like we're seeing an infiltration of more and more sex workers coming into the country from different parts of the sub-region. That's a bit worrying for me. We also need to see why that's happening. I mean, statistical service or authorities, bodies who can rake in that research should do it. 1 dead and then 3,300 displaced in Makango floods. That's on page 6 of the daily guide. And then, I'm saddened by your pains, Baumia to flood victims. That's on page 6 of the daily guide.
All right, so on the anchor we have Goldfields dabbling in dirty politics. Save football fans as company delays TNA Stadium weeks after terminating Mediama deal. Pressure mounts for state of emergency to be declared over dam spillage. $40 million World Bank cash for farmers affected by dam spillage. Margins Group, KGL, donate 1.4 million Ghana cedis towards Infancy Pim Sports Complex project. Premix automation worsens for corruption. Elmina Fisher folks cry. And when you turn to the back of the paper, we have our support, our relief support campaign poster right there, asking you to please help the residents affected by the Akosombo Dam spillage in the lower Volta. So we have all the information right here. So go check it out on the back page of the anchor.
Beautiful. Let's go to citynewsroom.com online. And I mean, the big story here, Baumia calls for long-term solutions to Akosombo Dam spillage. And I mean, you can go there. Let's read the story some more. But yeah, look, this dam spillage thing, we've been dealing with it since Nkrumah's overthrow in '66. And most of the things that should have been done to mitigate its effects if we ever had to spill, to make sure that the people who are affected by the construction of the dam, the expansion of the lake, most of those things haven't been done. Achampong came. His regime built the Kpong Dam, and indeed a lot of experts are telling us that, but for the Kpong Dam, the spillage would have been worse because the dam is collecting some and sort of halting the water before it overflows to other parts. So we really need to look at this thing.
But how far is the Kpong Dam from the Akosombo Dam?
Oh, they're not that far. Kpong and Akosombo are not so far
from each
apart.
other, yeah.
Yes, in terms of if you were doing a road trip,
Yeah.
you know, they're not so far apart. My mom was telling me something yesterday evening about how she remembers when she was younger. She has family members who were displaced when the dam was constructed, and they were moved. And until they died, so these are was her auntie and her family. Until they died, they were never, you know, initially they were put somewhere and they were told it was temporary. This have been in the 60s, and since then, nothing, you
nothing
know.
happened.
And because of that, their grandchildren are suffering, you know. So it's a real situation with real people. And so we really need to take a look at it. And I think because we don't spill the dam very often, like we keep saying, the last time it was spilled was in 2010. Prior to that, it was 1991. Now in 2023, 13 years since the last time it was spilled. We tend to say, okay, maybe it's not a problem for immediate attention. But when you do have to spill, then what happens? And that's why we plan. We plan so that when we get to the future and we meet a situation, it doesn't become a problem. So I don't know. CitiNewsroom.com. Stop being mouthpiece of judiciary. And this is Amaliba Jabbing, the Ghana Bar Association. NAPCO trainees under Grow Food module now have become agric extension officers. And this is what the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, is saying. Devastation caused by Akosombo Dam spillage due to lack of coordination, says an engineer. And then again on the dam spillage, malaria, diarrhea, and bilharzia cases found in emergency shelters, just as we feared. I don't remember the last time I even saw the word bilharzia.
I don't.
And that's what we're dealing with here, guys. And then lastly, let me go to GhanaWeekend.com. Yvonne Chaka Chaka Obrafour, George Jara, Kwabna to rock 2023 African Legends Night. That sounds like a brilliant lineup.
Yeah.
Brilliant lineup. And then 13 Nigerian celebrities who have been blessed with twins. There's a story there that has been compiled. And then a very sad one, Mr. Ubu's leg to be amputated, and he seeks prayers. So those are some stories. And then John DeMello provides relief and shelter to Akosombo Dam spillage victims.
That's nice.
All right. So very quickly, we'll go through some sports headlines. Let's take a look at those. All right, let's go to the world of sports. And this week has been about the Black Stars. Ghana forward Jordan Ayew has admitted that the losses to the United States and Mexico in the two friendlies played this month reflect the current state of the squad. The Black Stars have faced a lot of criticism from fans and observers after conceding 6 goals while scoring none in the friendlies. Ayew said after the game that while the team was being rebuilt with young players who lacked the needed experience, the defeats were in poor state, and they said a lot about the development of the squad in relation to the AFCON, which will be played in La Côte d'Ivoire next January. Ghana will resume national team assignments in November when the qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup begin. And then Brazil, let's go to Brazil. Brazil and Al Hilal forward Neymar will have surgery after rupturing his anterior cruciate ligament and his meniscus in his left knee while on international duty. I mean, that's sad news. The 31-year-old was taken off on a stretcher in tears during the 2-0 defeat by Uruguay on Tuesday. He landed awkwardly after a challenge in the first half of the 2026 World Cup qualifier in Montevideo. It is unclear how long Neymar will be out for, and Brazil's all-time male top scorer, who moved to Saudi Arabia in the summer he moved from Paris Saint-Germain, has struggled with injuries in recent years. And Neymar is one of the superstars, so I mean, that's very sad to hear. I hope that this injury doesn't prevent him from progressing further in his career. All right, so that's it for sports this morning.